He still remembered the day she said it, the way her voice trembled, but her eyes stayed cold. The living room was quiet, the sunlight slipping through half-closed curtains, painting her face in golden shadow. She looked at him, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. "I need to find myself before the wedding," she said softly. "I'm moving back with my exes for a while." For a second, he didn't move, didn't speak. The words didn't land all at once, they hung in the air, heavy and confusing, as if they were never meant to be spoken in that room between them. He thought he misheard her. Maybe it was the way her voice cracked, or the way she avoided his eyes, but when she repeated it, slower this time, he felt something inside him crumble. He had loved her for 3 years. They were supposed to be married in 4 months. The invitations were almost ready. Her dress had already been picked, hanging carefully in her sister's apartment. And now, she wanted to move in with her ex. He felt his chest tighten, as if someone had stolen the air from his lungs. What do you mean, move back?" he finally whispered. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's not like that. I've lost who I am. Before we get married, I need to understand myself again, and he knows a part of me I don't anymore." He stared at her. The silence that followed was unbearable. His heart raced, his mind refusing to accept the words coming out of her mouth. This was the same woman who cried on his shoulder when she got her first promotion, the same one who told him he made her feel safe, who said he was her home. Now she was saying she needed to find herself with someone else. He wanted to shout, to ask why she couldn't find herself with him, with the person who had stood beside her through everything, but all he managed to say was, "And what about us?" She looked away. "I don't know," she whispered. That night, when she left, the sound of the door closing behind her felt final. He sat there for hours, staring at the empty space where she used to be, the faint smell of her perfume still clinging to the couch cushions. The clock ticked loudly in the background, every second reminding him she was gone. He thought of calling her, begging her to come back, but his pride held him still. He wanted to believe this was temporary, that she'd realize what she was losing and come back, but deep down, something told him she wouldn't. Days turned into weeks, and he started counting time differently, not by dates or hours, but by moments without her. The mornings felt heavier, the evenings lonelier. Her photos still sat on the shelf. He couldn't bring himself to take them down. Sometimes, when the nights stretched too long, he would scroll through old messages, the good mornings, the little hearts, the plans for their wedding. He'd read them until his eyes blurred and his chest ached. She didn't text him, not once. He saw her online sometimes, but her status was always short, distant, emotionless. A small post about self-discovery, a picture of the sunset, once, a photo taken in a cafe he didn't recognize. Then one night, while he sat alone at the table eating instant noodles, a mutual friend texted him, "Hey, I don't know if I should tell you this, but she's been seen around town with him again." He didn't respond for a while. He just stared at the message, his heart pounding. He knew who him was. Her ex, the one she used to cry about, the one who made her question her worth, the same man she said she'd never go back to. He clenched his jaw, the chopsticks in his hand trembling. He didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal, or the realization that maybe she'd never loved him the way he loved her. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, wondering what part of himself wasn't enough for her to stay before her. He used to think heartbreak was just a feeling, something that faded with time, but now he knew it was physical. It lived in his chest, heavy and sharp, a constant reminder of what he lost. He started going to work early, staying late, anything to avoid going home. His colleagues noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the silence in his tone. Once, his manager asked gently, "You okay?" He smiled faintly, "Just tired." But he wasn't tired. He was empty. He still wore the watch she gave him for his last birthday, not because he couldn't take it off, but because he didn't know what else to do with it. It was a small piece of her that hadn't yet disappeared. One evening, after another long day, he got a message from her. "Hey, I hope you're okay." Just that, no apology, no explanation, just a short, emotionless message. He stared at it for a long time. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, typing and deleting a dozen replies before giving up. What was there to say? That he missed her, that he still waited for her shadow to walk through the door every night, that every song, every smell, every random memory broke him a little more. He put the phone face down and went for a walk. The streets were quiet, the air cold against his skin, He walked past the park where they used to sit and eat ice cream on weekends. The bench was empty now, covered in fallen leaves. He sat there anyway, letting the memories play in his head like a cruel movie. The laughter, the way she'd lean her head on his shoulder, the way she'd call him my calm. He wondered if she ever thought about him like that anymore. Weeks later, he saw her by accident. He had gone to a grocery store on the other side of town, trying to escape routine, and there she was, standing by the fruit section, laughing at something her ex said. He froze. She looked happy, freer, as if she'd shed the weight of everything they built together. She saw him too. Their eyes met. For a brief second, her smile faltered. He nodded politely and turned away. His chest burned, but he forced himself to walk past her, past the man she'd gone back to. When he got to his car, his hands were shaking. He sat there, for a long time, staring at the steering wheel, trying not to fall apart. He wanted to scream, to drive away and never look back, but all he could do was sit in silence, letting the pain wash over him again and again. That night, he deleted her number, not because he was ready to move on, but because he couldn't keep torturing himself. He had loved her with everything he had, but love, he realized, wasn't always enough to make someone stay. He tried to rebuild his life after that, slowly, painfully. He joined the gym again, started eating better, reconnected with old friends he had drifted from during the relationship. He smiled, sometimes small, quiet smiles that didn't reach his eyes, but they were something. Still, some nights, he found himself scrolling through their old photos, the trips, the silly selfies, the first home they planned to decorate together, and sometimes, when he caught himself smiling at those memories, guilt followed because he knew she was probably smiling somewhere else too. One evening, months later, he got an unexpected call. It was her sister. Her voice sounded hesitant. "Hey, I thought you should know. She's moving out again." From his place, he didn't respond right away. His heart skipped, but not out of hope, out of confusion. Her sister continued. "She's not doing great. I think she realized something too late." He thanked her and hung up. That night, he sat in silence again, just like that first night she left. The same couch, the same quiet, only now, it didn't hurt the same way. The pain had settled into something colder. Maybe. He didn't reach out. And for the first time, he didn't feel like he needed to. But she did. A week later, she showed up at his door. When he opened it, she looked nothing like the woman who left him months ago. Her hair was messy, her eyes red, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake," she whispered. He didn't say anything. She looked around the apartment, as if expecting to see traces of herself there still, but they were gone. He'd put everything away, every picture, every note, every memory tucked into boxes and stored out of sight. She tried to speak again. "I thought I needed to find myself, but all I did was lose everything that mattered." He felt his throat tighten. There was a time when those words would have undone him, when he would have taken her back without a second thought. But now, standing there, looking at her, he realized something he had found himself too, not by choice, but by pain. He had learned how to stand on his own, and even though a part of him still loved her, he knew going back would destroy him again. He stepped aside, letting her in, not as a lover, but as a ghost of the past. She stood in his living room like a stranger, trying to remember a place she once called home. Her hands trembled as she looked around, her eyes landing on the empty walls that once held their pictures. "You took everything down," she said softly. He nodded. "I had to." For a long moment, silence filled the room, the kind that carried all the words they never said, all the pain neither could put into sentences. She sat down on the edge of the couch, the same spot she once used to curl up beside him after long days. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke again. "I thought leaving would give me clarity. I thought I'd feel lighter, freer, but every day, it felt like something was missing. I just didn't want to admit it was you." He listened quietly. Her words were heavy, filled with guilt, but he didn't interrupt. She went on. "When I moved back with him, I told myself it was just temporary, that I'd figure out what I wanted, but he wasn't what I remembered. We argued, and everything that once felt familiar turned toxic again. I realized I was trying to relive something that had already died a long time ago." Her eyes glistened with tears as she looked up at him, "And by the time I realized what I'd lost, it was too late." He swallowed hard. The sound of her crying brought back too many memories, the nights he had waited for a message that never came, the days he walked through his apartment like a ghost. He wanted to hate her, to throw her words back at her, to ask why she broke something they both built with so much love and trust. But standing there, he couldn't. He sighed quietly and sat across from her. You know, the night you left, I thought I'd never breathe again. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough. Her eyes widened. You were enough. You were more than enough. He smiled faintly, but there was sadness in it. Maybe. But I wasn't what you wanted anymore. And that's something I had to learn to live with. Her tears spilled freely now. I was lost. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought finding myself meant walking away. But now I see it meant destroying the one person who ever truly cared. He leaned back, his voice quiet, almost tired. You didn't just walk away. You erased us. Every message, every plan, every promise. I kept waiting for you to come back, until one day, I stopped. She reached for his hand, but he gently pulled it back, not out of anger, but out of understanding. Do you still love me? She asked, barely above a whisper. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Yes, a part of me always will, but love isn't the same after it's been broken. It becomes something else, something quieter. She let out a shaky breath. Can we try again, please? I know I don't deserve it, but I can't stop thinking about what we had. He wanted to say yes. God, he wanted to, but deep down, he knew that the person she wanted to come back to no longer existed. The man who waited, who hoped, who believed she'd return, he had changed. He had built walls to survive. I can't, he said finally. Her lips trembled. Why? Because I found myself too, he said softly. And I found that I can't rebuild something that was burned down by the same hands that promised to protect it. Her face fell. So, that's it. He nodded slowly. That's it. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked around the apartment one last time. I ruined everything, didn't I? He shook his head. No, you just made me realize what I deserved. She stood up, her body trembling as she tried to steady herself. I wish you'd yell. I wish you'd hate me. It would be easier. He gave her a small, sad smile. I did, for a long time. But hate is just another way of holding on, and I'm done holding on. She wiped her tears, trying to find her voice. Will you ever forgive me? He looked at her for a long moment. Maybe someday, but forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It just means I won't let the past control me anymore. She nodded slowly, understanding what he meant even through the ache in her chest. When she turned to leave, she stopped at the door and whispered, I hope one day someone loves you like you loved me. He looked at her, his eyes soft but firm. I hope so too. But I also hope you find someone who teaches you not to run when things get real. She hesitated for a second longer, then walked out quietly, closing the door behind her. This time, he didn't wait for her to come back. After she left, the apartment felt empty again. But the emptiness was different. Now it wasn't painful. It was peaceful. He made himself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching the early morning light spill across the city. The world outside kept moving, just like it always had. He thought about all the moments they'd shared, the laughter, the plans, the promises, and realized they weren't wasted. They had shaped him, hurt him, and taught him what love should and shouldn't be. He didn't erase her from his heart. He just learned to live with the space she once filled. Weeks turned into months again. But this time, he wasn't counting the days without her. He was simply living them. He started traveling more, meeting new people, rediscovering things he used to love before her: music, writing, long walks at night. He smiled more often now, not because the pain was gone, but because he finally understood it. He knew that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who teach us the hardest lessons. And though her chapter in his life had ended, it had left him with something irreplaceable. Clarity. A year later, he saw her again by accident. This time, at a bookstore. She was alone, standing by a shelf of poetry books, flipping through pages absent-mindedly. When she looked up and saw him, their eyes met. She smiled, small, bittersweet, full of the things they never said. He smiled back. No words were exchanged. There didn't need to be, because both of them knew some love stories aren't meant to end in marriage or forever. Some are meant to break you, so you can finally see who you are without them. She went back to her book, and he walked away, feeling a strange calm inside him. Not sadness, not regret, just peace. For the first time, he didn't look back. As the years passed, the memory of her no longer hurt, it just existed. A quiet reminder of a time when he gave everything, and of how sometimes losing someone can be the only way to find yourself again. He never forgot her voice that day: I need to find myself before the wedding. Now, he finally understood what it meant, and in his own way, he was grateful she left. because in her absence, he found everything she was searching for. Don't forget to watch more stories like this.